tax and spend for the next 4 years. That could be what we're looking at here in the Biden administration. I want to cut right to the U.S. national debt. 28 trillion and climbing rapidly, as you can see here from usdebtclock.com. It's a fascinating website just to go and watch these things ticking away, ever escalating. Yes, the U.S. debt has absolutely exploded, and we are going to raise, the government is apparently, the Biden administration rather, is going to raise taxes because the spending is not going away. We just passed a $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package, and there's another big spending bill that might be coming down. And to pay for not all of it, but some of it is going to come in the form of raised taxes. Get ready, folks. Here we go, story here from Fox News. You can see here, President Biden is reportedly planning to include a first major tax hike in close to 30 years in the next economic spending bill following the coronavirus relief package. The next spending initiative, which is expected to be even bigger, cost as much as $4 trillion. That refers to the infrastructure plan that Biden is set to reveal potentially next month as he addresses in a joint session of Congress, if that ever happens, which is something that we've talked about here. When I posed the question if Biden will ever do a press conference, I don't think he has yet, and he still hasn't addressed Congress. So he may. The speculation here is that Biden will outline an infrastructure plan in that joint session, again, if it ever happens. Now, the plan changes here. The highlights include raising the corporate tax rate to 28% from 21%, raising the income tax on individuals earning more than $400,000, expanding the estate tax, creating a higher capital gains tax rate for individuals earning at least $1 million annually, and paring back tax preferences for so-called pass-through businesses. The tax increases will mostly mirror Biden's proposals during the 2020 presidential election, when he vowed to reverse former President Donald Trump's 2017 tax cuts. So those will be gone. Now, it says here day one. That certainly has to happen. By the way, Biden also said he'd be sending out stimulus checks on day one in the amount of $2,000. And no, that did not happen either. So it remains to be seen what happens here. It says any tax increases included in the legislation would likely take effect beginning in 2022. And an analysis of Biden's tax plan conducted by the Tax Policy Center estimated that would raise $2.1 trillion in new revenue over a decade. Now, looking through this, there's nothing here in the highlights as a middle class advocate, as you know, as we've been talking about here for months now, advocating for the middle class. There's nothing here in this release, in this story from Fox News, about a middle class tax hike. It seems to be mostly focused on the wealthy and on businesses, which is important because business costs will rise, which means our costs, they will pass those costs on to us, the consumer. Nothing here about a middle class tax hike, but if you do the math, I'm sure you probably have seen this. You can tax the wealthy up to a certain amount, but eventually you're going to need some of that money to come from the from the middle class. Now, Biden has said he's not going to raise taxes on anybody earning under $400,000 per year, but I think that remains to be seen. And you look at this in the broader sense, I showed you that 28 trillion and climbing. Look, you're going to have to, what do you do about the national debt? You're going to introduce all these trillions of dollars in legislation, and you have really no way to pay for it. So how can you potentially pay for it? Well, by raising taxes up to $2 trillion in revenue over a decade. But you have to think, this is not even going to come close to paying for any of these new proposals. I mean, that estimate from the Tax Policy Center, $2 trillion over a decade, well, that's 10 years from now, and we just passed $2 trillion last week. So I think you're a little bit behind on the books here. And some have even said, look, the spending is about 80% borrowing. I believe that's the figure. We borrow 80% of what we spend. So this idea that raising revenue is going to pay for any of this stuff is just not going to happen. And some have said, well, why even bother taxing at all if you're just borrowing the whole time? Yeah, I think that's a very good question. So this is the partial solution. But it's really not a solution because the national debt is just going to keep climbing and climbing. We're going to be sitting here, maybe I pull this up in a couple of months. We'll be at 30 trillion after Biden's infrastructure bill may go through. And so I want to know what you think about this. Do you see any kind of coherence in this, at least in terms of paying for things? I don't see it. We're going to you can say, well, stop spending, but okay, I might agree with that maybe in principle, but there's no inclination for the government to stop spending. In fact, it's the opposite. Spending is going up, up, up and away, and it's never going to stop. You will not elect you will not elect Republicans who will stop the spending. That has proven to not work. And even further down in the story here, the Trump administration spent $4 trillion. I mean, so that's it. It's not going away. The spending is never going to stop. But what you will get on the other side is higher taxes. And you have to wonder really why at this point, right? The part of you just wonders, the revenue you're going to get from the taxes will never catch up to what you're spending. But tax and spend. This is where we're going to be, what it looks like the way we're going to be for the next 4 years. Now, there's a little bit of highlight here on the infrastructure bill story here from informedamerican.com. Biden wants his infrastructure initiative to include things like climate change. Yes. Now, this thing could be as high as $4 trillion. They may sketch out the plan promised on his campaign trail. And I said here in a joint address to Congress, giving the White House has added infrastructure experts to the administration in recent weeks and called in lawmakers to discuss the topic. This could be part of what they're going to do. What it looks like is they're going to roll climate change spending into the infrastructure bill. So pay attention to this. So could include things like investments in electric vehicle charging stations, zero emission buses, zero carbon electricity generation by 2035. Try to hit that goal, and directing dollars to minority neighborhoods and contractors, part of a pledge to increase racial equity. Now, all these things might be fine on their own, but they don't really have much to do with infrastructure, though I guess you could say building a charging station is technically infrastructure. One of the other things it's not in this Informed American piece, but the idea of weatherizing 2 million homes, what does that mean? You're going to get weather stripping to put around your doors and windows? I don't really see much help coming from that. But that's what's coming. They're going to roll all the little pet projects. A lot of the problems that many of you had with the coronavirus relief package, things unrelated to COVID-19. No, they couldn't just pass a simple bill to send the checks to Americans. No, they couldn't pass a simple bill to send money to schools or to bolster the vaccine rollout. No, they have to roll it into one big package, and then everyone puts in their little pet projects into the COVID relief package, and the same thing is going to be done with the infrastructure bill. It's going to become essentially the green energy bill that they couldn't pass will then be rolled into an infrastructure bill totaling $4 trillion. And at some point, you just have to throw up your hands and say, well, I mean, is it even worth caring about the national debt at this point? Because is it ever going to be paid down? And as we've talked about with Rodney here, well, it's not a problem until it is, and nobody knows when that problem is going to rear its head. So it looks like we're in a giant hole, and really, how do you dig your way out of this thing? It doesn't look good. So I wanted to bring your attention to this. Yes, tax and spend is coming. It is absolutely going to come. Now, it remains to be seen. Of course, we have 50-50 split in the Senate, and Senators Manchin and Sinema of Arizona seem to be the most, I guess, conservative of on the Democrat faction. Those who are not quite on board with all of the proposals. So those two would be the two holdouts. So that might be a little bit of a chance for wiggle room there. But we might see in all of these bills just 50-50 down the line. Republicans opposing all the way, voting no, and Democrats voting yes all the way on their side, and then maybe Kamala Harris breaking a tie. Interesting, by the way, if you didn't catch this on the COVID-19 stimulus bill, that vote was actually 50 to 49 because a Republican senator from Alaska went home because he had a death in the family. So that's why you didn't see Kamala Harris breaking a tie on that. But just a bit of not trivia, but a bit of news on that because I was curious on myself. How did you get 50-49? So that's why. But that could be the blueprint we're seeing over the next few weeks. Tax and spend is coming. I want to know what you think about this. What do you think of this infrastructure bill? What do you think about the proposed tax hikes coming from the Biden administration? And now I got a quick word for all of you, something that we have a special offer for all of you this week. As I talked about yesterday and you're seeing in the news, the lockdowns are really finally easing. We saw crowds in Las Vegas, New Orleans, Miami, all over the country as restrictions have been eased. And you may be concerned about your own immunity. You know, as you've been cooped up in the house, you haven't been out there in the public, going out to eat, doing as much as you used to. You may be looking for a way to boost your immunity, and you may find that with Curcumin 2000. So we have a special offer for all of you this week. If you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out. I would appreciate it. And finally, a bit of fun thing here. It's something that you may all want to participate in as we're getting into the NCAA basketball tournament coming up in just, I believe it's starting on Thursday. And many of you are filling out your brackets. And you may have already filled out your brackets for who you think is going to win the national championship, but there is a second bracket I wanted to tell you about that you may enjoy, the Liberal Hack Tournament. Brackets announced stars from CNN, NBC, and to compete for hack royalty. And there you can see CNN's Brian Stelter, who won the tournament last year, the first annual Liberal Hack Tournament, edging out Jennifer Rubin. This comes from the Ruthless podcast, and they'll be voting on this starting on Thursday in the brackets. On I believe the Twitter handle is @comfortablysmug. So you may want to go in there and vote for your favorite liberal hack. And as a story here from Fox News says, yes, CNN's left-wing media guru Brian Stelter became the first ever liberal hack tournament champion. So he's looking for a repeat here. He edged out Jennifer Rubin. Here are some of the other ones. You got Jake Tapper, Joy Reid, of course, Brian Stelter there. And with, I don't want to say anything mean, but that's, anyways, next to him is Jennifer Rubin. And there's Chuck Todd and our favorite Cuomo, Chris Cuomo, also from CNN. So you can download, if you want to look at the bracket, you can see all 64. In fact, that's 66 because I guess there was a little what do you call it? I'm forgetting the word, but a playoff, I guess, to get into the number 16 seed. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but if you look here, we've got just the 1 seeds here at the top are Jennifer. That's not getting any bigger. Is Jennifer Rubin in the liberal activist bracket, and then we had the play-in. I don't think we've figured out who's in the fake news one, but second seed is Jim Acosta of CNN. Then we have that's for the fake news bracket. In the establishment bracket, we have Matthew Dowd, who was an advisor to George W. Bush and then Barack Obama, and nothing at all conservative about Matthew Dowd. And then the play-in, that's it, the play-in round for the Way Too Online. Fighting for that 16 seed is the number 1 seed is Taylor Lawrence of New York Times. Oh yeah, and the fake news is Brian Stelter, 1 seed. So you can check out this bracket, have a little bit of fun here. Pick your liberal hack. Who is the biggest liberal hack in American media? You can fill out your bracket and go to @comfortablysmug to vote for that this week. I just find this was hilarious. Yeah, we have a couple other here. Hannah Nicole Jones, the reporter behind the New York Times Magazine's Fact Challenge 16-9 project. We've got George Stephanopoulos, Jane Meyer, Daily Beast editor Molly Jong Fast, Vox journalist Aaron Rupar, Bulwark editor at large Bill Kristol. Wow, remember Bill Kristol? Seemed like a conservative guy in the 2000s, right? But not anymore. A couple other here, Jonathan Karl, Teen Vogue editor-in-chief, Alexei McCammond, PBS NewsHour correspondent, Yamiche Alcindor. So tons here, tons of liberal hacks for you to vote for and fill out your bracket. So maybe if your basketball bracket doesn't do so well, maybe you can fill out the perfect liberal hack bracket. So just a little bit of fun here, something you might want to have a laugh about. So I think this is a hilarious thing these guys are doing for the second year in a row. So go over there and vote. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. If you're watching here on Facebook, please hit the like button and share this video with your friends. And on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel. We always want you to hang out here on informedamerican.com. Comment down below on all this. Tell me what you think about Biden's tax and spend policy. Tell me what you think about the liberal hack tournament. If you're going to vote, who's the biggest liberal hack in America? And please join 250,000 subscribers by signing up for our free email newsletter. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.